So now that we've discussed the sight, word, and whole language approach versus phonics, here's the big picture. For sight words, you will always have sight words, and you'll always have some words that will be necessary to teach whole language style. These are irregular words, and those that cannot be sounded out by using phonics. So, sight words, basically, whole language, if you teach 10 words, children know 10 words. You teach 10, they know 10. Whereas with phonics, with sounds and blending, if you teach 10 sounds, students know and are able to decode 33 sound words, 4,324 sound words, and 21,655 sound words. So obviously phonics allows students the opportunity to decode words and decode language that's written. So these are going to be words that they've heard before, or at least they can decode them even if they're nonsense words. So phonics has greater results because it teaches students to decode words that they might have heard used in spoken language exposure. Okay, the methods and practices. As a result of all of this research, the National Reading Panel suggested that a balanced literacy approach be taken, and that would mean a combination of phonics and whole language. Modeled and shared reading and writing are exactly what they sound like. Modeling reading and writing aloud, and sharing reading and writing ideas and techniques aloud. Guided reading and writing include pre-reading, during reading, and after reading activities to activate prior knowledge and foster and maintain comprehension. Independent reading and writing are what they seem, independent and accomplished individually. So you may notice the endorsement of direct instruction. Direct instruction methods get a bad rap sometimes for their scripted nature. However, please realize that it is important to teach students consistently in patterns that they will be able to understand. Almost every teacher uses direct instruction in some way, whether they intend to or not. Direct instruction is not about reading from a script. It's having your own phrases and cues for your students to follow. This can be anything from clapping your hands in a pattern or flashing the lights for attention to using the same phrases to cue students to respond and practice aloud during reading instruction. It is important that we equip students directly with methods of learning, not just teach them various facts and concepts. Reading is the gateway for learning knowledge independently, which explains our need for explicit direct instructions of methods and techniques to equip our students. Okay, now moving on to part 2. For reading instruction for students with deafness, I'm going to cover the questions like, what are the challenges faced within the varying communication styles of the population, and knowing the most effective ways of teaching reading to the general population, where do we go from here? So first of all, the auditory verbal, auditory oral, significant, or for someone who has significant access to hearing spoken language. Cued speech is not a language, but it's a communication tool to visually represent phonemes to accompany lip or speech reading of whatever language is being spoken. They say that 60 languages can be represented with cued speech, because cued speech represents the phonemes and not the letters. It's not a interpretation or a translation, it's a transliteration. And so here again, cued speech will provide access to phonemes, and so it's providing phonemic awareness for the student. Cued speech is going to be using the hands, so it's not going to be accessed in the same way that someone with hearing would be, but it's an alternative method. Now, for someone using sign English or sign exact English or pidgin, just a combination or total communication, signing will provide word by word or greater vocabulary, another 5 big ideas, access to written language, but it oftentimes will lack in full grammatical structure. So it does not provide access to phonemic awareness and or phonics. It's signs. It is providing access to some vocabulary, a little bit more than ASL does, as we'll see in a minute. But it will tend to follow a more whole language approach of learning written language, because it's mostly learning vocabulary in a way that you have the first letter of the word initializing the sign. So now, while ASL is in itself a complete whole, so the essential question that I chose to look at was, how do we apply the 5 big ideas, which are the research proven practices, to reading instruction for students with deafness? All right, one of the methods that I looked at was visual phonics. Visual phonics was developed by a mother of a deaf child to help teach reading. It is a hand and written cue system that represents each of the 45 phonemes related to the nature and characteristics of the sound. So the visual phonics cue for P represents the plosive nature of the phoneme P. It can be used with any reading program and is compatible with any language that uses the same phonemes as English, obviously. So it allows students to access phonetic properties of phonemes visually and in a multisensory approach. Multisensory educational practices are currently strongly encouraged by modern research for students with and without disabilities. So visit http://seethesound.org for more information about visual phonics. All the visual phonics information presented here and in the packet is drawn from research and from observation of Andrea Phipps's practices in the classroom. Andrea Phipps used visual phonics throughout the elementary school at the North Carolina School for the Deaf. She combines it with direct instruction techniques and used the Wilson Reading Program. Cued speech, which we mentioned earlier, was developed in the 1960s, and it was funded by a U.S. Department of Education grant to improve literacy primarily and provide access to phonemes through vision, using the mouth and one hand. It's adaptable to many languages, to 60 different languages from what they claim, and it also is a multisensory approach. And you can learn more about cued speech at http://www.cuedspeech.org. And cued speech is different from visual phonics in that it is partially a communication tool to help. It's not a language, but it's partially a communication tool to help students lip read better and speech read better. It does not use as many. It uses 8 or 10 hand shapes, and the hand shapes and placements combined along with mouth shape are what provide the cuer with the information of what phoneme is being spoken. And so, of course, you don't have to talk while you're doing it, you just have to do the mouth shapes. So it's completely phonetic. It has absolutely nothing to do with spelling at all. So it's great for providing access to phonemic awareness. And then, of course, there's the combination of signed exact English and visual phonics. And visual phonics with signed English as a reinforcement can effectively cover the 5 big ideas of reading in a lesson. And Andrea Phipps uses a model, as I can tell, similar to this in her classroom. And she teaches with visual phonics for the access and has students sign sentences in signed English, but with ASL expression, because most of these students are native ASL speakers, or if not native, that's at least what they primarily use.